Hello and welcome to another episode of the AutoTrader Podcast. My name is Wandile Sishi.
And I'm George Mienie.
And we're in, the same studio, but things are a bit different. We've kind of shaken things up. Our art department and our producing department and our studio managers have graced us with some extras in the studio today. And I think it feels a lot warmer than before. I don't know how you feel about it.
Yeah, I mean, in my opinion, it was starting to feel a little bit cold.
Yeah.
So this looks a lot warmer.
Definitely warmer.
Yeah, let us know what you think.
Yeah, tell us what you think. Yeah. If it sucks, you can, maybe we can get something different.
Nah, I think it'll be good.
I think they'll like it too. I think I'll like it too.
So.
Plus, we're in the studio again, which is nice. The last show we actually did it virtually, so it's good to see you again, George.
You'd see too. On our Heritage Week.
On our Heritage, that's why I'm dressed so nicely. I look like T'Challa from the Black Panther series.
I was dressed in a yellow Bafana t-shirt earlier, but I thought it would be a little bit stark.
Repping the boys.
Yeah,
love to see it,
so,
and the girls.
I was supporting the heritage of soccer in South Africa. Soccer is a South African term.
Well, I'm not sure if it's purely South African.
I don't think it's purely South African, but I mean in Europe they call it football.
Yeah, I refer to it as football. So you're saying in South Africa PSL, right? It's the Premier Soccer League. For instance, our main league they refer to it as soccer as well. So I think you're right.
I think it's a South African term, but whatever.
Yeah.
It's often a forgotten thing. Just because Bafana doesn't do that well in the World Cup doesn't mean that we don't have soccer in our blood.
Yeah, we have a lot of legends as well who come from South Africa.
Yes.
Who played on the
Mark
global.
Fish,
Lucas Radebe. Who's the guy who played for Everton again? It was from Cape Town. He was from Cape Town. What was his name?
I don't know.
Stephen Bina. Thank you to our production team. Stephen Bina was the other one. Played for Everton, I think.
Well, seeing as we're talking to the production team, can the production team just turn my headset up slightly, please?
One other person actually.
Just a smidgen. There we go. Yeah, that's much better. There's
one famous person who right now is Benny McCarthy. He's actually,
yes.
I think he's head.
But he's getting old as well, huh?
No, but he's now a coach for Man United.
Wow.
He's one of the things they strike. I don't know, but he's at Man United now as part
I don't follow soccer. I used to play it in high school, but I don't follow soccer avidly. I'm definitely not a European soccer follower. I mean, I don't even follow South African soccer, but I used to play it and I loved the game. And I know that it's in our blood. So from a heritage point of view, it's definitely part of South Africa. Yeah.
I mean, we'll never forget the 2010 World Cup. Yeah. I mean, that was a game changer. Everyone was so united and we were really celebrating the heritage that day. Yeah. During that month. Yeah, it was pretty amazing. Anyways.
But Formula One.
It's coming back.
Next race this weekend, right?
Yes, I think we're going to Singapore. So yeah,
changing continents.
That's why changing continents a little bit.
That's why it was a 3-week break.
Yeah, break. It was terrible 3 weeks. It felt longer than the normal summer break. It was thank goodness we're coming back to
reality.
The season. You want to see Hamilton finally get his first win. It's been a painful season.
It's not going to happen.
It's going to happen.
It's not going to happen.
You just watch. It's going to happen.
It's not going to happen. He doesn't have the car. He just doesn't have the car.
I don't know. I believe. It's been a sad season.
Maybe just put a rocket on the back of that car.
We need something, maybe cheat. Just cheat. Toto, cheat. I'll, as long as nobody finds out.
Cheat. Oh my word, I can't believe you just said that. Let's get into what we actually came to do.
So today's episode, we actually were visiting something that we've spoken about before, which is cost of ownership. So just for some context, and I think we're going to speak about it a bit later on. I know you have some thoughts, but one of our design team members, his name's Kenny, he sent me an article in which was speaking to the increase of tire prices, right? So I thought maybe it's time to retouch and talk about, what is the cost of ownership again? Because I think a lot of people come come to AutoTrader and want to buy a car, but they don't actually know what is the cost of ownership of a vehicle. So off the top of your head, what are the key things that a person should consider when they want to buy a car? Outside of just obviously like the vehicle price.
Well, the vehicle price in its entirety is not the cost of ownership.
Yeah.
Okay.
Exactly.
The depreciation over the time period that you keep the vehicle is the cost of ownership.
Yeah.
Okay. So if you buy a car for 200,000 Rand now, and in 5 years' time you sell it for 100,000 Rand, the cost to you has been 100,000 Rand. Okay.
Yeah.
So that's the cost. The cost is not the whole car.
Yeah.
So if you believe a car is going to keep its value, right, your cost of ownership is lower. So cost of ownership is not the price of the car itself. If you get the finance right in terms of how the car depreciates, your cost of ownership could be your repayment.
Okay. That makes sense.
Be a repayment. So I think the cost of the car is often.
Well, I think that speaks more to the cost of a car, but I was referring more to what are the additional costs that you incur.
Well, people forget that the capital cost of the car actually contains a cost because the car depreciates, right?
Exactly.
On top of that, you've got the general things that people know about, fuel cost, right? Which is now just doubled in the last 1 or 2 years.
Yeah.
That's fuel cost. Insurance, everybody knows, some people don't pay insurance. Some people don't have insurance on their cars.
Yeah.
Which I think is dangerous, but, people sometimes don't take insurance.
Yeah. They just get a tracker.
Some people buy a car and they have to insure it because it's bank financed.
Yeah.
They drive out of
most people do that, right? So I think banks they make sure that you
and then they cancel the insurance.
Oh, okay.
That
happens. That
happens. It's oops.
I've got load shedding in the studio.
2 hours later.
So insurance they go on obviously the service plan, most plan.
No,
which normally comes if you're buying a car new.
Yes. So if you pay for that on a like upfront, then it's going to be a cost of ownership. But it's more the maintenance of the car that is a cost of ownership rather than the actual maintenance plan. Yes. Maintenance plan is really just trying to peg that number. Yeah. Rather than it biting you. You know.
Correct. So with that being said,
so maintenance and service are two different things, eh?
Maintenance and service are two different things.
Yeah.
Right?
So services are regular services to keep your warranty or to keep the car in good nick so that you don't have to do maintenance.
Yeah, maintenance is ultimately it's cost of replacement of parts.
Yes. Yes. Radiators. Brake discs, those kinds of things. I just took my I-Pace for a service this week.
Yeah. What do you?
No, it was still under warranty. But and that's the nice thing about an electric car is. Unless the brake pads had gone, there was no cost. Yeah. So I paid nothing. Yeah. And because I try and do single pedal driving, there was no service cost for me.
It was just a normal stock standard
Plugged
service.
The car into the UK, went through a check of all the software and sensors, and got a thumbs up for all the sensors. Yeah. And they replaced the brake fluid. Okay, so that's the only thing they did. There wasn't a cost to me. And the brake pads were still fine. The brake discs were still fine.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, I need to do my major service later on this year. But I'm also on a plan, so it's not too extended warranty.
You paid for the plan.
Yes, correct.
Exactly. So that's the difference. There was no maintenance plan to buy with the I-Pace. And there's no maintenance costs.
Yeah, nice.
There's no service costs. So that's the thing about an electric vehicle that kind of is now I'm experiencing.
100%. I mean, with that being said, so there's an article I read on sites by one of our journalists. I think it was done by Chad, and it speaks to essentially what's the cheapest car to own in South Africa, or what's the cheapest car in terms of cost of ownership, and how he got to the conclusion is he used the Kinsey reports, which looks into basically the cost of service parts. Repairing the car, and then as well as if you're in a crash or whatever. So it's basically taking those three different things, putting them together, and then we're getting a number or a rank rather of cheapest cars to own. So I don't know if you want to guess, but essentially it's being split up into city cars, family favorites, SUVs, etc. Just the body types essentially. And
I'd say one of the if it's a hazard a guess without looking at the list. Yeah. And genuinely I haven't looked at the list. I would say potentially either a Toyota or a Suzuki are there.
Okay, so before we get into that, what do you think would reduce the price or make it cheaper? Because it's relative, right? It's relative to
mostly the vehicle. If the cost of the vehicle has been taken into account. Okay, so the actual price of the vehicle.
Yes, that is definitely...
That's going to be the biggest factor.
Yeah.
That's going to, I think, hands down. So, if you're talking about a 150,000 rand car versus a 250,000 rand car, no service maintenance or anything is going to trump that 100 grand.
For sure. And this is, it's also taking into consideration the fact that you're not getting like aftermarket parts here. It's like manufacturer or OEM parts, essentially. So, there's ways around things. Like, for instance, in my car, like I don't always get like the like the OEM recommended sort of part, if that makes sense.
OEM doesn't know about that, and your car's under warranty.
No, I'm not talking about like mechanical stuff. I'm talking about like things that I have some leeway with. I sometimes go get this like a similar quality thing that's
Ferodo brakes, for instance, you buy
exactly.
you buy that from a spare shop.
Yeah.
Ferodo supplies the manufacturers. Bosch supplies the manufacturers with spark plugs. So oftentimes those parts are fine. Just check with the OEM.
For sure. No, I never want to like void. I'm not recommending you void your warranty. Yeah. I'm just saying there's kind of ways around this. But essentially, with regards to the segments, the cheapest car to own in South Africa was the Renault. I don't know if you know that. But essentially, the cost total awarded to the Renault is about 62,000 Rand when you take those three parameters together. So this is replacement costs, service costs, all that. Which I thought was quite interesting.
I wouldn't have thought a Renault would be on that list. And then I see you got the Ford Figo there too.
Yes, so that was the runner-up if you combine the different price baskets. So
do you know how many people with Ford Figos I've seen with maintenance problems?
No, is that a common thing?
And maybe it's just because some people that I've known have driven Ford Figos, but have had some serious engine trouble.
Could also just be the amount of Figos that are on the roads.
It could be also age
yeah.
of the Figo, because I don't know if they're selling the Figo anymore. I don't think so.
Yeah, I'm not too sure. With regards to super minis, so the Hyundai i10 ranked the cheapest cost of ownership.
That actually that didn't come to mind. Hyundai is historically from the Gets. It's a very, very good car.
Yeah, for sure. Very, very good value for money. With regards to family favorites, so these are like kind of Polos, Golfs, those sort of things. So the cheapest cost of ownership would go to the Corolla Quest. No surprise there. You did call it Toyota. Then when it comes to SUVs, something that was quite interesting for me was the Fortuner.
Yeah, that's not surprising.
That was surprising for me.
Really? No, the Fortuner is such a popular car. Just the sheer volume alone on the Fortuner. Hilux Bucky wouldn't be far off, I wouldn't think. But just the cost, just the volume of sales of that thing in South Africa the volume will bring down the cost of ownership. Because the more cars that sell,
economies of scale.
Yeah, economies of scale, effectively.
Yeah, but here's my thing. For me, it was the fact that there's so many new entrants in the markets, and the brand of Fortuner alone, including Toyota, I guess, has gone up, right? So the cars are a little bit more expensive if you like relative to 10 years ago, for instance.
Yeah.
And now there's just new entrants in the game. So I would have thought somebody else would have, specifically the Chinese models.
But the Chinese models. Surprising that Joleon's not, yeah?
Yeah. The reports is a bit dated, so I'm sure in the,
I reckon the Joleon's going to sneak up here.
Yeah.
I saw Joleon on the road the other day. It's a beautiful car.
Yeah, 100%. With double cabs, you said Hilux?
Ford Ranger.
But
volumes, again.
Once again,
look at how popular that Ford Ranger is and how it's kind of given the Hilux a run for its money.
I 100%
in terms of search.
Yeah. And then maybe the last one, single cabs, was the Nissan MP200. That's just that's no surprise there.
It's no surprise because there's nothing else that really beats it.
That's a purebred workhorse.
No, but it's only one of its kind.
Yeah.
So you don't find half-ton buckies.
Yeah.
So
I agree.
Anything from the NP200 is getting into long wheelbase, single cab, 1 ton, double
Does
cab.
the Chevy utility, the older, I'm not even sure if they still make those anymore. Does that count
Chevy
as a
left.
single cab vehicle?
Yeah, it does because it's got 2 seats, single cab. But the NP200 is the only one left.
Yeah,
and that's like it's competing against nothing.
Yeah, 100%.
Well, in this country anyway.
So if you want to obviously get more in depth with this, if you want to find out what is cost of ownership for or the cheapest cost of ownership, I definitely advise that you check out the article. Chad has gone into great lengths into kind of investigating that. So very, very interesting. there's always a way around it. There's always going to be options for you if you just search AutoTrader and you read our articles. And moving on, so
brand champion,
of course. Moving on, so back to the article that I was referring to earlier. I don't know if you saw this, but essentially earlier this month, the government announced that there's going to be an increase to the excise duty of tires. Now, this increase is 38.3%. And it's kind of causing waves around the country because now tires, potentially, specifically tires that are imported, are going to be 38% times more expensive.
You know what my opinion on this is?
38% more expensive.
I am all for local manufacture.
Mm-hmm.
Local manufacture in a country is going to win hands down for that country 6 times a week.
For sure.
So for me, I'm not saying that the import duty should go up, right? I'm not a proponent of import duties going up. But this, if you look at this as an opportunity, what is the opportunity?
For local manufacturers?
Yeah. So we manufacture approximately 11 million tires in the country.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. 2 million of those gets exported to SADC countries, right? So juxtapose that against 40% of passenger, 60% of truck tires are imported, right? So that means that we are 11 million minus 2 million exported, if my numbers are correct.
Around 9 million, yeah.
So 9 million are the tires that we locally manufacture and we actually consume here, right? Another 9 million we import, right? So that means it sounds like we're using or consuming about 16 to 18 million tires a year in the country.
Yeah.
All right. There's
50% of that is locally manufactured, and you're saying the other
50% is imported.
Yeah.
Okay. Is that an opportunity for local tire manufacturers to increase production by importing raw materials and not suffering from the excise duty and increasing jobs?
For sure.
Investing in plants, because tire manufacturers are want to or not want to increase production because it means investment.
Yeah.
Right. Now remember, most of the tire manufacturers are actually international businesses.
Yes.
But they're locally manufacturing.
Yeah.
So for me, the 38% increase just screams a 9 million tire opportunity. 9 million local manufacturer opportunity.
So I completely hear your reasoning to that. However, I'm going to pose one additional factor that I think we're not considering yet. Most of these tires, or what the government's trying to address, is these much cheaper tires, cheaper than the local manufactured tires. Still great quality tires, which are now going to be experiencing this massive 38% increase. So for
what are they trying to stop?
They're trying to stop people. Well, they're trying to stop the less of these tires coming in. Ultimately,
of what tires?
Of these cheaper tires from.
Is it just price based?
I think it is price based.
Or are they putting cheaper tires against bad quality?
No, I don't think it's a quality issue. I think
then why do it?
Well, I think they're just trying to stop the importing of these cheaper tires so they can assist the markets and the tire manufacturers, the locally manufacturing tire manufacturers. But what I've noticed is, for the large part, the local manufactured tires are still more expensive than the tires that the normal South African consumer was buying.
Obviously the South African consumer is going to go for the cheaper tire.
100%.
The tire is a commoditized thing.
Yes.
It's for an average consumer, a tire is a tire is a tire. Right.
But yeah.
So is there an element here of that we haven't stumbled across where the tire quality is lower and the South African government is actually trying to stop bad quality tires from coming into the country?
I don't think it's that.
That?
In the research that I've done, quality was never a key factor. Yeah. So here's a scenario. You now need to change your tires, and your usual manufacturer, let's say it's one of these X brand that comes from China, for instance, you're paying 1,200 Rand for a piece. But because now the price has gone up, you're paying an additional, let's say 600, 700
Now you're going
Rand.
to switch to a local tire, right?
Yes. But the local tire, they like base standard for your car, for instance, is 2,300. So I'm not too sure if this still helps the local business. If that makes sense.
You're assuming that locally manufactured tires are not going to fall in price.
I think I think they have to now.
There we go.
Or a cheap alternative to what they currently
should be made.
Offering. Yes.
Yeah. So at the end of the day, we can't say the 38% increase is going to have a cost increase to the consumer, because if the tire manufacturer is willing to invest in their plants and take that 9 million opportunity and turn it into reducing tire costs, right? It'll all be beneficial to the country. We're getting more jobs. We're actually onshoring the jobs, whereas the jobs are in China right now.
Correct.
I'm all for South Africa being more self-sufficient.
Definitely opportunity for sure. But I think it's going to take a little bit longer than a year, for instance. I think it's not going to be an immediate.
No, it won't. Of course, it's not going to be. Yeah, you got to scale. You got to ramp up the plants. You've got to, that takes time.
And I think the consumer in that scenario is losing a little bit.
Yeah, in the short term, consumer definitely will lose in the scenario, which isn't great in the current environment. I agree, fully agree. But I think it's a nicely rounded debate. Obviously, the consumer is not going to. So I suppose the thing to do right now, right,
is buy tires.
Why? Because you're going to get those cheaper ones.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
And your tires are going to last 2 or 3 years.
Yeah.
And then by that time everything is kind of worked out in the wash.
100%.
Like if you wait now with tires and you wait 12 months, now the tire price is going to increase first on average and before it comes down. So maybe the answer to the consumer out there is, if you are imminently needing to buy tires, go buy them.
Yeah.
Put them in your garage for a couple of months if you like.
Exactly. Yeah.
And go and have them fitted.
I think maybe we should just. It will be interesting to see what the price of tires, if they do change over. And what I'm going to do is I'm just going to look at base level across different brands and see over time exactly how that's gone, and even if the local manufacturer guys are,
I think there's an opportunity in this country that hasn't been
tapped into.
Yeah. And that is a real online player, a real online tire marketplace. Nobody's done it.
Yeah.
We're a car marketplace, so it's not something that's on our radar. But there is no real online marketplace that will bring tire prices down by real comparisons.
100%. Before you leave, something that has come up is people are asking for more Ask AutoTrader. So I brought in 2 questions for you. Hopefully you can, get me the answers. I don't think I actually read you the questions before this, so you're going to be flying blind here a little bit, George. And the first question comes from Giggs, who's asked Giggs has asked, I saw a company called AutoTrader Auctions on Instagram. I'd like to ask if you guys have an auction branch.
No. So the answer, Giggs, is absolutely not. We'll go and look for the AutoTrader Auctions Instagram platform and see if we can have it brought down, because anything that contains our brand we're very protective over, and we don't want even a question like this from the public that says, is this you? Because you can see why it could be problematic. So the answer is no. Auction is not something we've considered getting into. We've got Instant Offer, which isn't an auction. It's a blind offer platform.
Okay.
But auctions is not something that we do.
Okay. Next question comes from Romanov, who's asked, why are first-time car buyers always advised to avoid turbocharged engines and automatic gearboxes?
So Romanov, I don't know who's given you this advice, but I've never heard of this before.
Yeah.
There is absolutely nothing wrong with it. Maybe 10, 15 years ago, yes. Turbocharged cars.
It is a very old school sort of.
Turbocharged cars 10, 15 years ago weren't reliable. They were still trying to figure out the technology, blah, blah, fish-based. But as a first-time buyer, second-time buyer, third-time buyer, buying a turbocharged car is no problem with that. And then automatic versus manual, I'd always go automatic.
Yeah, me too. Honestly,
it's just an easier drive, and plus
for a
first-time buyer who is maybe still learning to drive, automatic is better, is less to focus on.
Yeah, no, don't listen to the car fanatics who are shaking their heads in the studio, but it's fine.
No, the diehards will want the stick shift.
Yeah, for sure. And, but automatic's the way. Traffic is it's a breeze. It's a breeze. And that's pretty much all the time we have for today, George. Thank you so much for the show.
Go Leclerc.
Shall see. We shall.
Search AutoTrader.